The sun was setting over the strange, foreign world as Jason stepped out of his transport. His boots made a soft crunching sound against the dust-like surface of the alien planet. It had been a long journey, and he was finally here to help with the diplomatic mission. His role was to assist in forging better relations between Earth and the various alien species who inhabited the galaxy. As he walked toward the central gathering area, Jason felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had met many different species, each with their own customs and traditions, but nothing could have prepared him for the encounter he was about to have. In the distance, he saw her, a tall, elegant alien woman with shimmering blue skin, standing near the edge of a small gathering. Her long, silvery hair flowed gently in the wind, and her bright eyes sparkled with curiosity. Jason had heard of her species before the Highland. They were known for their advanced technology, intelligence, and strange ways of showing respect and gratitude. She had been waiting for him. Her people had requested his presence to discuss some important matters, and now it was time for the meeting. As he approached, she greeted him warmly, her voice soft and melodic. "Greetings, human. I am Alira. Thank you for joining us." Jason smiled and extended his hand for a handshake, as was customary on Earth. Alira tilted her head slightly, observing his gesture with fascination. Her delicate fingers reached out, but instead of shaking his hand, she gently touched his arm. Jason blinked, unsure of what to do next. This was different from anything he had experienced before. "I've heard much about your species, Alira," Jason said, trying to break the awkwardness. "It's an honor to be here." Alira smiled, her eyes bright with appreciation. She stepped back, glancing around at her surroundings. "I have something I must do to show my gratitude for your arrival. You humans do not show thanks in the same way we do." Jason raised an eyebrow, confused but curious. "How do you show gratitude?" Alira's voice was calm as she spoke, but there was an underlying confidence in her words. "We show our gratitude through gestures of physical closeness. It is the most sincere form of appreciation in our culture. If you are willing to accept my thanks, you will understand." Before Jason could respond, Alira began to slowly unbutton her robe-like garment. Jason's eyes widened in disbelief. He had not expected this. In his mind, he quickly tried to understand what was happening. Was this a misunderstanding, or had she misinterpreted something about Earth's customs? Wait, Jason stammered, stepping back. No, that's not necessary. You don't need to, do that." Alira paused, looking at him with a mixture of confusion and concern. "Do you not accept my gratitude? This is how we show respect to those who help us." Jason could feel his face growing red with embarrassment. He was a trained diplomat, but nothing in his education had prepared him for a situation like this. No, I'm just not used to, this kind of thank you," he said, trying to sound diplomatic. "You don't need to take off your clothes to show gratitude." Alira blinked a few times, processing his words slowly. "You do not accept my thankfulness in this way. Then, how do humans show their gratitude?" Jason rubbed his face, trying to think quickly. "Well, humans, we show thanks in other ways, sometimes with words. Or we might do something nice for someone, but we don't undress to show gratitude." Jason sighed in relief, thankful that he hadn't made the situation worse. Yes, there are many ways to express gratitude. A simple thank you works just fine on Earth. For a moment, Alira looked down, as though reflecting on what he had said. She finally smiled again, a soft, genuine expression that warmed her features. "Thank you, Jason, for helping us. I am sorry for misunderstanding your customs." Jason chuckled, still feeling awkward but appreciative of her willingness to understand. "No harm done," he said, offering her a reassuring smile. "I'm just glad we're finally on the same page." The two of them stood in silence for a moment, a quiet understanding forming between them. Jason knew that there was still much to learn about Alira's species, but for now, he was just happy to be part of the journey. And as they walked toward the gathering to continue their diplomatic talks, Jason couldn't help but feel that this would be the start of a very unusual but meaningful friendship. The next day, Jason found himself in a larger gathering with Alira and several members of her species. It was a peaceful setting, with towering trees and softly flowing streams all around them. The Highland, Alira's people, were sitting in a circle, their smooth, blue skin shimmering under the warm sun. They appeared to be waiting for something, and Jason was still trying to get used to the alien customs. Alira stood beside him, her presence calm and elegant. Her long, silver hair fluttered gently in the breeze, and her bright eyes were full of curiosity as they began to speak to the group in a soft, melodic language Jason couldn't understand. "I've been asked to help us communicate better," Jason said, his voice loud enough to be heard. He didn't quite understand what she was saying, but he assumed she was introducing him to her people. "But first, I need some clarification." Alira turned to him, her brow furrowing slightly. "What clarification do you seek, Jason?" Jason hesitated, unsure of how to ask without sounding rude. "About the way you express gratitude. Yesterday, you said it was something different, and I think I misunderstood." Alira's face remained calm, though there was a flicker of confusion in her eyes. She nodded slowly, her voice soft and measured. "In our culture, gratitude is not just a word. It is a gesture, a physical act that carries deep meaning. When someone does something for us, we offer our bodies as a sign of respect." Jason wasn't sure how to respond. He had been caught off guard the day before, but now he was trying to understand Alira's point of view. It wasn't about physical attraction, it was about expressing thankfulness in a way that was completely foreign to him. "I see," Jason said, trying his best to sound understanding. "But in my culture, we show gratitude in many different ways through words, actions, and sometimes small gifts. It's about respect, not gestures like that." Alira tilted her head to one side. "But, Jason, your people have no other way to express deep gratitude, no gesture of true respect." Jason thought about it for a moment. "We express gratitude through kindness by helping each other, by showing care and appreciation. Sometimes we might hug or even give a gift to someone we care about, but it's never about removing clothing." Alira seemed lost in thought. She looked down at her hands, as if trying to piece together the information. Her people clearly believed that physical closeness was the most genuine form of showing respect. She didn't understand how Jason's world could be so different. In her mind, it seemed like a formality, something that was expected in all cultures. "What if we try your way?" Alira asked after a pause, her voice filled with curiosity. "Can you teach me how to show gratitude the way your people do? I want to learn more about you and your ways." Jason was taken aback by her question. He wasn't sure if she was asking out of genuine interest or simply out of politeness. Nevertheless, he realized this might be his chance to bridge the gap between their cultures. "Well," Jason started, "we don't just say thank you. It's more than just words. It's about understanding and respecting the effort someone put in. It's about being thoughtful." Alira nodded. "I believe I understand. But if not through our physical gestures, how will I show you my respect?" Jason took a deep breath, trying to think of an example. "When we thank someone, this is delicious," Jason said, trying not to cough or show any discomfort. The stew was a bit too spicy for his taste, but he appreciated Alira's effort. "Thank you for sharing this with me, Alira." Alira beamed at his response, clearly pleased that her attempt at gratitude had been well received. The Highland around them murmured in approval, their voices soft and melodic. It seemed that Jason had earned their respect, and in turn, he felt a sense of respect growing for Alira and her people. As the meal continued, the conversation shifted toward different cultural practices, and Jason found himself feeling more comfortable. Slowly, he was beginning to understand that while their cultures were very different, there were universal values they shared: respect, kindness, and the desire to connect with one another. The meal came to an end, and Alira looked at Jason with a question in her eyes. "Have I shown you my gratitude, Jason?" Jason smiled, his earlier discomfort now replaced with appreciation. "Yes, Alira, and I'll show you my gratitude as well through my words and my actions." For the first time since arriving on this strange world, Jason felt a genuine connection with Alira. It wasn't just about customs or misunderstandings, it was about building something real, something based on mutual respect. The days that followed were filled with many conversations and attempts to understand each other's cultures. Jason's mind was still reeling from the misunderstandings that had occurred, but he was slowly becoming accustomed to the differences. Alira was genuinely interested in learning about Earth and the customs of its people, especially when it came to showing gratitude. One afternoon, Alira invited Jason to a cultural exchange. She wanted to show him the deeper aspects of her world and its people. Jason agreed, feeling a sense of excitement. He had always loved learning about other cultures, and this felt like an important step in building a bridge between their two worlds. The cultural exchange was held in a large open courtyard. The air was fresh, and the sky was painted in shades of pink and orange as the sun began to set around them. Alien plants stretched tall, their leaves shimmering with strange patterns. The Highland people, including Alira, were dressed in colorful robes that reflected the beauty of their planet's vibrant flora. It was a peaceful, serene setting, one that made Jason feel at ease despite the earlier misunderstandings. Alira led him to the center of the courtyard, where several of her people were gathered. There were long tables filled with strange yet beautiful objects, finely crafted artwork, sculptures, and strange stones that seemed to glow faintly. It was a way for the Highland to display their culture and offer it as a gift to others. "This is how we show respect," Alira explained, gesturing to the tables. "Each piece of art represents a moment in our history or a feeling we hold dear. The act of sharing them is an expression of our gratitude and admiration for others. Each gift is meaning, and we give it freely, expecting nothing in return." Jason walked up to one of the tables, studying the delicate pieces on display. One item, a small crystal carved into the shape of a tree, caught his attention. He reached out to touch it, feeling the cool surface of the stone. As he did, he noticed that it seemed to pulse slightly, as if reacting to his touch. Alira watched him closely. "That one represents the growth of our people. It symbolizes our strength and how we've overcome challenges to survive." Jason nodded, intrigued by the meaning behind the objects. "It's beautiful," he said. "I can see how much thought and care went into these." Alira smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "Thank you. It's an honor to share our culture with you." Jason continued to examine the objects, asking Alira questions about their significance. She explained how the Highland believed in the importance of connection to the land, to their ancestors, and to each other. Each artwork, each item on display, told a story about their people and their values. As Alira explained, Jason began to understand that their customs were deeply rooted in their understanding of the world around them. The Highland didn't just see gratitude as a simple exchange of words or actions. They saw it as a way to connect on a deeper level. Gratitude was an acknowledgement of the bond between individuals, a reminder that they were all part of something larger. Jason took a step back, absorbing everything Alira had shared with him. "This is so different from what we do on Earth, but I see now that it's just as meaningful in its own way." Alira nodded. "Yes, it is. Our ways are not superior, they are just ours. I hope you can appreciate the meaning behind them." Jason smiled. "I do. I think the most important thing is that we both want to connect and show respect, even if we do it differently." Alira's face softened. "I agree. And I want to learn more about your ways, Jason. Perhaps we can exchange more ideas, share our gratitude in both our ways." Jason's heart warmed at her words. He realized that despite all the awkward moments and misunderstandings, they were making progress. They were learning from each other, respecting each other's differences, and growing together in a way that was meaningful to both of them. Later in the day, the cultural exchange continued with music and dance. The Highland had a beautiful tradition of singing songs that told stories of their people's history. The music was soft and rhythmic, with instruments that Jason had never seen before. It was a gentle, peaceful sound, one that filled the air and created a sense of calm. Alira invited Jason to join in their dance, and although Jason felt hesitant at first, He soon found himself swept up in the moment. The dance was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was graceful and fluid, with movements that seemed to flow naturally from one to the next. The Highland danced in a circle, their movements synchronized as they celebrated the bond they shared with one another. Jason found himself laughing, his earlier discomfort forgotten as he embraced the rhythm of the dance. Alira's hand was steady in his, guiding him as they moved together. For a moment, it felt as though the world had faded away, and all that mattered was the connection they had formed. As the dance came to an end, Jason found himself more at peace with the strange customs of the Highland. He had come to understand that their way of life, though different from his own, was no less valuable. They valued connection, respect, and gratitude, things that were universal across all cultures. When the exchange finally came to a close, Alira turned to Jason with a gentle smile. "Thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope you've learned something about us." "Just as I have learned about you," Jason nodded. "I have, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think we have a lot more in common than I first thought." Alira's smile grew wider, and for a brief moment, Jason could see how much the day meant to her. It wasn't just about the cultural exchange, it was about the connection they had built, the understanding they had gained. It was a sign of the friendship that was beginning to blossom between them. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Jason couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. There was still so much to learn, so much to explore. But for the first time, he felt truly connected to this strange and beautiful world. Jason woke up to the soft chirp of alien birds outside his window. He rubbed his eyes, still a little tired from the busy day before. The cultural exchange had gone better than he expected. But today was different. Alira had invited him to another event, a gathering of sorts, where they would try to bridge the gap between their customs once more. As Jason dressed and prepared for the day, he found himself excited to learn more. He had enjoyed the time spent with Alira and the Highland people. However, today was going to be a little different. Today, they would try to combine both human and Highland customs, and Jason wasn't entirely sure what to expect when he arrived. At the gathering, he found Alira standing in the center of a large circle, smiling warmly. Around her were several Highland, their faces calm and welcoming. The tables in front of them were covered in delicate objects, representing their culture. But there were also a few small items from Earth's simple gifts Jason had brought along to share in return. "This is going to be interesting," Jason muttered to himself. Alira walked over to him. "Thank you for joining us again, Jason. Today we'll share both our ways of showing respect. I think it will help us understand each other better." Jason nodded, but his nerves began to kick in. He had read the pamphlets about Highland customs, but he wasn't sure if he could manage combining both cultures without making a mistake. He remembered how the last attempt at gratitude had turned awkward. The thought of repeating that kind of misunderstanding made him uneasy. Alira began the event by sharing one of her people's traditions, a peaceful song, sung to honor the ancestors. She started to sing softly, her voice clear and beautiful, and the Highland joined her. Jason stood back and observed, feeling a sense of awe as the music filled the air. He could see that this ritual meant a great deal to them, and he admired the way Alira's voice echoed through the space. Once the song ended, Alira turned to Jason with a gentle smile. "It's your turn. Would you like to share a human tradition?" Jason was caught off guard. He hadn't planned for this part of the event. Sure," he said, trying to sound confident. "I can share a tradition from Earth. We humans, we often express gratitude through storytelling." He stepped forward, feeling the eyes of everyone on him. He cleared his throat and began to speak. "In my culture, we often tell stories to remember our history, our heroes, and the lessons we've learned. I'll share one with you," Jason began, his voice a little shaky, but growing steadier with each word. "It's about a soldier who saved his people, even when the odds were against him. The story was about a brave warrior who, against all odds, managed to defeat an invading force." As he told the story, Jason noticed that Alira and the other Highland were watching intently, nodding in approval. They seemed to understand the meaning behind the story, even though it was a human tradition. But as Jason finished the story, something unexpected happened. One of the Highland in the audience, an elder, stood up. The elder walked toward Jason and with a soft voice began speaking in the Highland language. Alira quickly stepped forward to translate. She's asking why you didn't show respect through physical gestures, Alira explained, her face looking somewhat concerned. She believes that a story alone isn't enough in Highland culture. Gratitude must be shown with more than words. You must offer something deeper. Jason's heart sank. He had done his best, but it seemed that the human way of showing respect was not enough. He hadn't realized that the elder might take offense, and now it seemed he had upset them. Alira turned to the elder, trying to explain. Jason did offer his respect in his own way. You must understand that for him, words have meaning, and his gratitude is in the story he shared. The elder looked confused and a bit disappointed. Alira sighed softly and turned back to Jason. I'm sorry. It's just our customs are so different. Jason, feeling embarrassed, wanted to find a way to fix the situation. He had been so focused on doing things correctly that he hadn't fully considered how different their expectations were. I didn't mean to offend anyone, he said quickly. I was just trying to show you the way we do things. Alira smiled at Jason, her voice soft with gratitude. Thank you for trying, Jason. It's hard to explain our customs, but I think we're learning together. Jason nodded. I'm willing to keep learning. I'm just glad you're patient with me. As the event slowly came to a close, Jason realized that no matter how much they tried, misunderstandings were inevitable. But it was through these awkward moments that they would learn more about each other and build something stronger. The road to understanding was not always smooth, but it was worth the effort. And with that thought, Jason knew that no matter how many more awkward moments they would face, he was ready to keep trying. After all, the only way to truly connect was to keep learning, to keep growing, and to never give up on understanding one another. Over the next few weeks, Jason found himself adjusting to life on the alien world. His understanding of the Highland culture grew deeper, and his friendship with Alira blossomed. Though there had been awkward moments, both of them were determined to learn from each other. The communication between them, once strained, was now much easier. One evening, Alira invited Jason to visit a place she described as special to her people, a quiet forest, rich with history and meaning. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the trees. The air smelled fresh and earthy, and Jason felt at peace as they walked together along the narrow path. The soft crunch of the leaves underfoot the only sound. This place is where we come to think, Alira explained as they continued walking. It's where we honor our ancestors and the wisdom they've shared with us. Jason looked around. Fascinated by the beauty of the forest, the towering trees seemed to hum with life, their leaves shimmering in the fading light. It's beautiful here, Jason said, his voice filled with awe. It's peaceful. Alira nodded, her eyes thoughtful. Yes, it is. When I was younger, I used to come here to think about my future, my responsibilities, and my place in the world. The trees here are old, and they've seen much. There's a special kind of wisdom that comes from being around them. They sat down on a large rock near a clear, bubbling stream. Jason felt the cool breeze on his skin, and for the first time in a while, he truly relaxed. He was grateful for this moment of peace, especially after the tensions of the cultural exchange. I've been thinking a lot about gratitude lately, Alira said after a long silence. How do we show it? How do we make sure our respect is clear? Jason nodded, understanding her concern. I've been thinking about that too. I think gratitude isn't just about showing respect. It's about building trust, and trust takes time. Alira's eyes softened as she looked at him. You're right. Trust is something we have to earn. And it's not just about giving gifts or performing rituals. It's about being there for each other, supporting each other when it counts. Jason smiled, realizing that Alira was beginning to understand the human perspective. Exactly. It's about being there, even when it's hard, even when things aren't perfect. For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, letting the sounds of the forest fill the air. Jason reflected on his time with Alira and the Highland people. It hadn't been easy, but he had come to appreciate their way of life. He understood now that their customs, while different, were just as meaningful as his own, and in many ways, they were more similar than he had originally thought. As they continued their conversation, Alira began to share more about her personal life. She spoke of her childhood, the expectations placed upon her as a member of her species elite, and the pressure to uphold the traditions of her people. Jason listened intently, his respect for Alira growing with each word. She was strong, not just physically, but emotionally as well. She had faced challenges that Jason could not even imagine, yet she carried herself with grace and dignity. "I was always expected to lead," Alira said, her voice tinged with a hint of sadness, "to be the perfect example of what it means to be Highland. But sometimes I wondered if I was ready, if I could truly live up to the legacy of my people." Jason looked at her, his heart going out to her. "You don't have to be perfect, Alira. No one is. We all have our struggles, our doubts, but what matters is how we deal with them. And you've shown me that you're more than capable of handling whatever comes your way." Alira smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Jason. Your words mean a lot to me. Sometimes it's hard to believe in myself, especially when there's so much pressure to be perfect. But hearing you say that helps." Jason took the stone, his fingers brushing against the smooth surface. He felt a deep sense of gratitude in his heart. The gift was simple, but it meant more than any physical gesture could express. "Thank you, Alira," he said, his voice full of emotion. "This means a lot to me." They sat there for a while longer, the night settling around them. Jason felt at peace, knowing that their friendship had grown stronger. It wasn't just about cultural exchanges or learning new customs. It was about the trust they had built, the understanding they had gained, and the friendship that had blossomed between them. As they stood to leave, Alira smiled at him once more. "I'm glad we met, Jason. I think we have a long journey ahead of us, but we'll face it together." Jason nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Together." And with that, they began their walk back, side by side, ready to face whatever came next with a bond stronger than ever. The following week, the calm of the alien world was shattered by an unexpected message. The Council of Highland Leaders, who had been overseeing the peace negotiations, sent word that a hostile group of space pirates had entered their system. Alira's people had always prided themselves on being peaceful, but the arrival of these pirates was a dangerous threat to their stability. Jason was shocked when Alira came to him with the news. "We need your help," she said, her voice tense. "The pirates have attacked several of our trade ships. If they aren't stopped, they could disrupt everything we've worked for." Jason knew this moment was coming. He had heard about the pirate raids during his time on the planet, but he had hoped they were just rumors. Unfortunately, it seemed that the worst had come true. The Highland had advanced technology, but they weren't experienced in combat. Alira had seen Jason's training and knew he had skills that could help in situations like this. Jason wasn't sure if he was ready to take part in such a serious mission, but he couldn't turn his back on Alira and her people now. "We'll need to act fast," Jason said, his tone firm. "Do you have any plans to defend against them?" Alira looked at him with a mix of determination and fear. "We've tried to negotiate with them, but they won't listen. We need someone who can think outside the box, someone who isn't afraid to take risks." Jason felt a surge of responsibility. He wasn't a soldier, but his training and experiences on Earth had given him a unique set of skills that might just be what they needed. He couldn't let the pirates destroy the peaceful world Alira had shown him. "I'm in," Jason said, "but we'll need a plan, and it has to be fast." Together, Alira and Jason gathered a small group of trusted Highland fighters who had military experience, but who had never been in a real combat situation. Their mission was to board the pirate ship, disable its weapons, and force the pirates to surrender without risking the lives of the Highland people. Jason would lead the charge, guiding them through the unknown territory and putting his military tactics to the test. Jason and Alira boarded a sleek Highland spacecraft, a ship that was elegant but made for speed rather than defense. The ship's engines hummed softly as they took off into the dark void of space, heading toward the last known location of the pirate ship. The stars outside the viewport were beautiful, but Jason's mind was focused on the mission ahead. "I've never been in a battle like this before," Alira said quietly, sitting next to him in the cockpit. Jason glanced over at her, seeing the uncertainty in her eyes. She wasn't just a diplomat. She was someone who deeply cared for her people and her planet. "None of us have," he replied, "but we'll figure it out together." The ship entered the pirate ship's location and came to a stop. The pirates had set up camp near an asteroid field. Using it for cover, Alira's ship was much smaller and faster, which made it the perfect choice for a surprise attack. "We can't go in full force," Jason said, his voice calm and focused. "We'll need to disable their weapons first. Once their defenses are down, we'll move in and take them by surprise." Alira nodded, listening carefully to his plan. "We're ready, Jason. Let's do this." They approached the pirate ship cautiously. Using the cover of asteroids to hide their presence, the Highland ship moved in quietly, staying out of the pirate ship's range. But as they got closer, something unexpected happened. The pirate ship fired a warning shot. Narrowly missing them, the pirates had detected their approach. "We're out of time," Jason said, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "Prepare for the assault." The ship lurched forward, and Jason guided it toward the pirate vessel. He could hear the sound of the engines roaring as they made their way through space. Dodging incoming fire from the enemy ship, Jason's heart raced as the stakes grew higher. This wasn't just about diplomacy anymore, it was about survival. Alira's eyes were focused, her hands steady as she worked the controls. "We need to get closer," she said. "I'll get us into position." Jason nodded. "I'll be ready, you get us close, and I'll take care of the rest." As the distance between them and the pirate ship shrank, Jason could see the enemy's weapon systems charging. They were almost within range of the Highland ship, and the next few seconds would determine the outcome of this mission. Alira did her best to maneuver the ship, dodging blasts from the pirates. Jason felt the ship shake with each near miss, but he remained calm. They needed to be fast and precise. The pirates were skilled, but they were not prepared for what was coming. When they were close enough, Jason jumped into action. He and the Highland fighters boarded the ship through a hidden hatch and moved quickly to disable the pirates' weapons systems. The pirate crew was startled but ready to defend themselves, and a small skirmish broke out inside the ship. Jason fought with precision, taking down several pirates using his training and quick reflexes. The Highland fighters, though inexperienced, followed his lead, successfully neutralizing the threat. Alira stayed behind to pilot the ship, keeping it in position to ensure their escape route was clear. As they reached the pirates' control room, Jason confronted the leader. "This is over," he said, his voice firm. "You're surrendering, or we'll take you down." The pirate captain sneered but knew they were defeated, with their weapons offline. They had no choice but to surrender. Jason contacted Alira's ship and gave the signal. The pirate ship was now in their control. "We did it," Alira said, her voice filled with relief. "We stopped them." Jason looked out the viewport, watching as the enemy ship slowly turned toward the Highland fleet. This was a team effort, he said, looking back at Alira with a smile. "We did it together." The mission had been a success, but Jason knew that it wasn't just the battle that mattered. It was the trust they had built in each other that had made this moment possible. Together, they had overcome a threat, and in doing so, they had grown even closer. As they made their way back to the Highland homeworld, Jason felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. This mission had tested him in ways he never expected, but it had also strengthened his bond with Alira and her people. And as the stars continued to shine in the vast expanse of space, Jason knew that this was only the beginning of the journey they would face together. The peaceful atmosphere of the Highland homeworld returned after the pirate threat had been neutralized. The mission was a success, and Jason felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The pirates had been driven off, and Alira's people were safe once again. But it wasn't just the victory that stood out to him, it was the journey that had brought them Here, in the days that followed, life seemed to return to its normal rhythm. The immediate danger had passed, but Jason and Illyra knew they couldn't afford to rest for long. There was still much to be done, especially in terms of strengthening the bond between their two cultures. Illyra had made it clear that their gratitude toward each other, though sincere, wasn't enough. It needed to go deeper. The pirate attack had proved that there were still barriers between them. Jason and Illyra spent the next few days working together, not just on the political front, but on a personal level. They spent time discussing what had gone right and what they could do better next time. The Highland had their ways, and humans had theirs, but neither of them was willing to give up on understanding the other. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Illyra invited Jason to join her for a walk through the peaceful gardens that stretched out around her residence. The plants here were unlike anything Jason had ever seen. Brightly colored flowers with strange shapes grew in abundance, and towering trees formed a canopy above them, casting dappled light onto the stone path. "This place always helps me think," Illyra said, her voice soft as they walked side by side. "After everything we've been through, I need a moment to clear my mind." Jason nodded. "I understand. Sometimes a change of scenery is all it takes to see things from a new perspective." They walked in silence for a while, enjoying the serenity around them. Jason's thoughts wandered back to the mission they had just completed. They had worked well together, and it was clear to him that Illyra trusted him. But there was still a lingering question in his mind. How could they continue to build on their relationship? How could they show each other respect, understanding, and gratitude in ways that honored both cultures? As they reached a small, tranquil pond, Illyra stopped and turned to face him. Her eyes were full of thought, and Jason could sense that she was grappling with the same questions. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady, "about everything that has happened between us. I know we've made progress, but sometimes I wonder if we can truly understand each other. Our ways are so different." Jason met her gaze, his own expression calm but focused. "We'll never be able to fully understand each other. Our cultures are too different for that. But I think the key is to keep trying. We have to be patient with each other and with ourselves, and most importantly, we have to trust each other." Illyra nodded slowly. "I agree. Trust is the foundation of any relationship. But sometimes I feel like we're building something fragile. What if something happens and all of this falls apart?" Jason smiled reassuringly. "Then we rebuild it. Every time it falls apart, we come back and rebuild. That's what people do when they care for one another. They don't give up, no matter how difficult it gets." Illyra looked at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "You make it sound so simple, but I think you're right. It's about persistence, about not giving up on what's important." Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out the small stone Illyra had given him weeks ago. He held it up for her to see, the smooth surface glistening in the fading light. "This stone means more to me than I can say. It's not just a symbol of our friendship. It's a reminder that we're building something here, something worth fighting for." Illyra's eyes softened as she took the stone from his hand. She held it carefully, her fingers tracing its surface. "It's strange," she said quietly, "how something so simple can carry so much meaning." Jason nodded. "It's the same with everything, isn't it? The simplest things often hold the most weight. It's not the grand gestures that matter. It's the little moments, the quiet understanding, the trust." Illyra smiled, a genuine warmth in her eyes. "You've taught me a lot, Jason. I've always believed that gratitude was shown through grand gestures, through physical acts. But now, I see that it's the everyday things that matter most." Jason chuckled softly. "It's funny how we have to learn these lessons the hard way." Illyra laughed as well. "The sound light and carefree. Yes, but we're learning. And that's what matters." They stood together in the peaceful garden, the soft rustle of the leaves around them the only sound. Jason felt a deep sense of connection, not just to Illyra, but to this world. The differences between their cultures were still there, but they no longer seemed like barriers. Instead, they were simply different paths leading to the same destination. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Alira looked at Jason, her gaze filled with determination. I think we're ready for the next step. Jason raised an eyebrow. Intrigued. What do you mean? Alira smiled, a glint of excitement in her eyes. I think it's time we start thinking about how we can bring our two worlds closer together. It's not enough just to learn about each other, we have to share what we've learned with the rest of our people. It's time to show them that different cultures can not only coexist, but thrive together. Jason's heart swelled with pride. I couldn't agree more. Together, they made their way back to the building, both of them filled with a sense of purpose. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but they knew it was one they could face together, and as they walked side by side, they realized that the true meaning of gratitude wasn't found in grand gestures or physical acts. It was in the quiet moments of understanding, the trust they had built, and the friendship they had formed. The journey wasn't over, but Jason knew that they were on the right path. The bond between them was stronger than ever, and with that strength, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead.